What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. We are in Colombia right now, and this is a video I have to make. Watch this video until the end because this video can literally save your life and be the difference whether you're going to have a fun trip or a not so fun trip here in Colombia. Even if you're not planning on coming to Colombia, you can still watch this video and get a lot of benefit out of it. You can also forward this to friends and family and just overall be safer and have a better experience while traveling abroad. So here in Colombia, there is a big problem, if you haven't heard of, about druggings going on. A lot of tourists and even Colombian nationals are being drugged by this drug called scopolamine, which is basically a odorless and tasteless drug that grows on trees and then is formed and malleated and combined into something else, and it's invisible and it can be put in drinks, food, anywhere. And what it does is when you take it, it renders you senseless, and basically like you turn into like kind of like a zombie, and you follow orders that people are giving you, and you have no memory of what happened. So let's get into some stories. So first story I have for you here is American graduate drug robbed and killed in Colombia after Tinder hookup. This is from November 16th, so this just happened about 3 months ago. So California family is in mourning and looking for answers after they say their loved one was drugged, robbed, and killed while traveling in Medellin, Colombia. Paul Nugent, 27, died Thursday in Medellin in what his sister describes as a cruel and senseless crime. So let's see what happened here. So according to a report, Paul met a woman on the dating app in Tinder and joined her at a nightclub. He was last seen leaving a bar with that girl on Thursday at around 2 a.m. Ooh, so this is tough because when you meet somebody for the first time, it's best not to have the first date at a bar or somewhere, especially late at night around 2 a.m. That's just not a good idea. He then went missing. His sister says, and just a few hours later, his body was found next to some garbage receptacles. El Comercio reported. So he was last seen around 2 a.m. and then a few hours later his body was found. That says that like in a few hours, whatever happened to him took place in those few hours. And Amy, which is his sister, which is Paul's sister, who Paul is the person that went on the date who was murdered. Amy, his sister, says that the family believes that he was going out with this girl and was lured into getting robbed after they got into a car together. They took all of his stuff and belongings. This says, we know all his cards were swiped after 4 a.m. and we believe there were multiple people involved, and she was just there to lure him and set him up. She added that Colombian authorities suspect that her brother was drugged and robbed. So even the Colombian authorities suspected he was drugged and robbed. And here they show an image of the Snapchat of the girl. So here they go into some details about getting capturing his killers, hopefully, and getting his body back to the U.S. Very, very sad news here. Let's go to another story here that I saw in Reddit, and listen to this story, guys. So, drugged and robbed and woke up in the ER. I moved to Medellin, Colombia from the States several months ago without knowing anyone or speaking in Spanish. I'm a 21-year-old male, cautious, and spent a year in Europe without incident. Okay, first thing is, if you move to Colombia or any country and you don't know the language, I'm sorry, but you're being kind of lazy. You need to learn the language. It's super important to learn the language anywhere you go. Communication is in two ways: verbal and nonverbal. Language and body language, right? But you got to know the language because you got to be able to communicate with people. So here, this guy moves to Colombia and he doesn't know the language. He doesn't know Spanish, which is not good. You got to know the language, guys. Like, keep emphasizing this. So he says the first month goes by without any problems. He met some gringos and learned enough Spanish to get by. Okay, if you can learn enough Spanish, then you can keep adding on to it and learn more and more. Especially if you're in a Latin American country, you got to pick it up quick. So he says, despite what you see in Narcos, Medellin is considerably less dangerous, but still somewhere you need to look over your shoulder. I would say pretty much everywhere you need to look over your shoulder. Oh, and almost no one speaks English. Most people won't speak English. Some do, but most people don't. He says, it was my friend's last weekend, and since he was 27, I thought he had enough life experience to properly vet new people. He invites these two girls from Tinder, and we meet up in the tourist area at some bar around midnight. Okay, again, this is another story of meeting up with some girl or girls for the first time at late at night at a bar. Um, yeah, that's not a good look. If you want to go on a date, if you want to meet someone new, meet them during the day. Meet them at a mall for the first time. You need time to vet out the person that you're meeting, right? So he says, my last memory is ordering a bottle, and then we blacked out. My next memory of 15 seconds is 8 hours later in the emergency room, waking up with an IV in my arm. Wow. So he went out with his friend and met two girls at a bar at around 12 a.m. And then 8 hours later, he wakes up in an emergency room with an IV in his arm. Like, just imagine, like, what must be going through your head if, like, this is happening to you. You're like, whoa, like, what happened? Was I drinking, driving? Was I an accident? Like was I wrong? Like, what happened? Right? It's just a mess. So he says, I pulled that out. So he pulls out the IV and black out for another 8 hours, waking up on the ride home for a few seconds. So this, whatever he had ingested the previous night before, which I believe was scopolamine, was so strong that he was passed out. And then we woke up, and he passed out again for another 8 hours, and he's really like out of it. He says, we then sleep until the next afternoon. So almost 2 days after we had been at the bar. So whatever the girls gave him, or whatever he had ingested, or whoever gave him the drug, was so powerful that they slept for pretty much 2 hours after it was taken. So obviously you're not aware of anything that's going on during this time, and you're just under the influence the whole time. He says, my phone, license, and vape were all stolen. Both of us had bruises, and I later found out a concussion that took me out for a month. Oof, just gets worse. Later that week, we all went out for dinner, and we were also in a drive-by shooting. Then we tracked my friend's phone and saw that at night we had gone almost directly to my apartment. For some reason, I'm not sure how, we were never inside, and none of my stuff was stolen. The drug in question here is called scopolamine, and makes you a victim of capable of almost doing anything, yet with absolutely no memory. Very common in Colombia, even for the Colombians. So this is, and then here's a comment that says Latin America is not Europe, sadly. So yeah, guys, this is Latin America is not like as safe as Europe. It's specifically Colombia in question here. Now you're watching this video, and you might be thinking like, oh, these guys, they went out, they asked for it, they met the girl at night, and if they just didn't meet girls off dating apps, and they didn't go out at night, and they didn't drink at a bar, they would have been fine, right? It only happens to these kind of people, right? Wrong. If that's the situation, then how do you explain this? This is from the city paper Bogota.com, and this is a very good article about something called a dangerous ride. And guys, this just gets crazier. In Bogota, security is an important aspect of daily life, and one of the most notorious methods of robbery, known as Paseo Millionaire, involves pirate taxis orchestrating a route which, under the best of circumstances, results in armed robbery. Under the best of circumstances, results in armed robbery. Okay, that's the best case scenario if you're involved in this. So the most common type, so a Paseo Millionaire is called a millionaire ride, and that's basically when it's a method of robbery is when a taxi is orchestrated with other people, or any transportation is orchestrated with other people. You get in the car takes a wrong route, or says he has a flat tire, or he's got to make a call, he's got to pick up another passenger, and you say, oh, okay, no problem, I'll just wait. And then before you know it, people pull up to the side, 3-4 people may get in, aim something at you, and then they take you for a joyride where they take all your cards, they take you to ATM machines, and they try to get the money out of your account. They also try to get into your banking accounts on your phone. See, gone are the days where it's just like, oh, robbery, they just took your phone, or they just took a jewelry and they ran away. No. That's like a best case scenario of robbery. Now it's like they want to get into all of your accounts in your phones. Yeah, they want to get into your email and change your email password, because your email is used for logging into many other accounts, where you reset your password. Your email is linked to that. So they want to get into your email, check you out of your email. Once they have your email, you're done. You can't get back in. And then from your email, go into all of your accounts and apps and and reset all the passwords, get into your crypto, get into your banking, also take everything that you have. Yeah, they want to suck you dry out of everything. This is what's going on here, okay? It happens across the world, but here in Colombia, these cases are being reported a lot higher than usual, and you really have to be wary of this. So here the article says the most common times for Paseo Millionaire are early mornings and evenings when cabs can make a quick getaway by avoiding the midday traffic. I mean, look at how well this is planned out, right? So it's like early mornings and evenings where there's no traffic. And also, it says the north of Bogota is fertile hunting ground for criminals working a bad trip. Grabbing just any cab off of the street is one of the big risk factors, especially if alone. So yeah, avoid taking cabs. Try taking an Uber or a licensed car. Pay the extra money for the safety. Don't cheap out here. It says common tactics can to be taken as warning signs are claims of mechanical difficulty, a flat tire, need to pick up a package, or stop to make a phone call. Once the taxi driver decides to take a route unknown, two or more persons will enter on either side of the victim in the back seat. Yep. Assailants intimidate the victim with a knife or gun, search for belongings, rob any valuable items. Often, the criminals will demand the victim hand over passwords to their debit cards and credit cards and disclose personal information. Okay, the taxi will drive to an ATM, and when that's done, will take out the cash using the cards while the victim is held inside the cab. Okay, so here it says if you suspect anything, just stay calm. Okay, here it says such was the case of a 36-year-old Russian Vitaly whose body was found in the south of Bogota in July 2012 after he took a cab from the 93 Park. So this has been going on for a while. It's just that now with YouTube and with social media, there's more awareness, but this has been going on for a while. I mean, this is from 10 years ago, right? Just one case out of the thousands of cases. It says even passengers arriving on flights to the airport in Bogota should be cautious to only take licensed cabs, even if the lines are long. Yeah, so don't cheap out on the taxis. Don't take shortcuts here. Take licensed transportation. And now let's head on over to another case, which I found very interesting. Right, so a lot of times people will say, the one of the main reasons why things like this continue to go on is because there's not really any repercussions for these criminals that do this, right? Like a lot of times they do it, even if you go and report it to the police here in Colombia, they don't really do anything. They'll write a report, but they're not going to go out and look for the people. So criminals know this. That's why they're so free to do this as many times as they want, because most likely they're not going to get caught, they're not going to get persecuted, and they're going to keep continuing doing this. But there is one case where they were persecuted, and it's very interesting. Let's go over it right now. So James Terry Watson, a DEA agent on an assignment in Colombia. A DEA agent is a drug enforcement agent that works in the United States that fights against the trafficking of drugs. So James was a DEA agent, and he was at a bar in Bogota watching the NBA Finals. Okay, he walked out of the bar and hailed a cab. The cab was a fake, part of a robbery scheme known as Millionaire Ride, the Paseo Millionaire, where victims were drugged and taken to ATM machines to withdraw the money. So check this out. Check this out. These criminals knew that, hey, at a bar during the NBA Finals, there will be tourists watching the games, right? There'll be Americans, Europeans, mostly Americans, and anyone who watches the NBA Finals. But especially, they knew this, right? They knew that, like, okay, a tourist bar where the NBA Finals are playing, there's going to be a lot of tourists. And that's where we're going to send a fake cab, to pick someone up. Watson's cab was approached by another car and two men jumped in. Okay, then he was stabbed. He ran out of the cab, collapsed, and unfortunately passed away from his wounds. Colombian police subsequently arrested a group of men for what they did, and a U.S. grand jury indicted some of them. Okay, so this was from about 10 years ago. Seven more men were put on a U.S. government plane in Bogota and extradited to the United States to face charges. All right, so Colombian authorities did capture these people that did this, but the reason they did is because the person that they drugged was a high-profile person. He was a DEA agent, so he's a employee of the U.S. government, right? So the U.S. government was pushing to capture these people, and the Colombian authorities worked with the U.S. government. But what about regular tourists? What about people? What about the millions of tourists that just come to Colombia? That get and many of them that get fall victim into this. They're not gonna have the U.S. government working with the Colombian authorities, or even just the Colombian authorities themselves, really working to find those perpetrators, to find those people that did this, right? So in this case, right, when I look more into this case, I went on the United States Department of Justice government. Okay, so this is the official website of the United States Department of Justice, and I read about this case. So here's this paragraph that interests me. It says, in the statement of facts filled with this plea agreement, Figueroa admitted that he conspired to conduct Paseo Millionaire or Millionaire Rise, in which he and his co-conspirators lured victims into taxi cabs and kidnapped and robbed them. He admitted that on the evening of June 20th, he was part of a 6-person robbery crew that targeted Special Agent Watson. One of the members of the crew picked him up in his taxi, while another drove a second taxi carrying the assailants. So one taxi picks him up, there's another taxi that's carrying the assailants. Figueroa entered the taxi that had Special Agent inside and shocked him with a stun gun several times, while another defendant stabbed him. Agent Watson was able to escape from the taxi, but he later collapsed and passed away from his injuries. And then here the article goes about how they were charged and just more into details about that. Yeah, so here's the comment, right? Here's a comment that sums up what I'm thinking. Laugh my ass off. Everyone who loves Medellin says that you can have an amazing trip if you don't use your cell phone outside. Don't wear shorts. Don't walk around at night by yourself. Call an Uber or taxi at night. Stay off Tinder. Wash your drinks at all times. Don't get scammed by apartments. Don't get scammed by restaurants. It's too much to actually enjoy. Not even dangerous cities in America have that level of caution. Yeah. So a lot of comments that you're going to see on YouTube and on these pages are just going to be people like, I was here for 2, 3 weeks. I lived there for 2 years. I never had anything happen to me. I felt completely safe. And these things only happen to people that are going out looking for trouble. Listen. That's not true. While that part of that is true, like I said, there's also locals that are being targeted. Okay, locals know more than you that have been living in Colombia for 2 years. You've been living in Colombia for 2 or 3 years. Locals have been living there their whole life, and they're getting got. So this is a national problem, right? So here's a comment. The one guy says, I just came back from Colombia. I was there 15 days in January. The whole trip was amazing and I felt super safe. Now you gotta be careful where you go, who you hang out with, and the right time of day be outside. Okay, just make sure there's like a million things that you're doing in order to be safe. Basic precautions we can say, well, these are not basic precautions. You gotta make a lot more precautions when you're in Colombia. And then if you look at the replies, right? One reply sums it up pretty good. How you felt is irrelevant. In fact is there was danger. You being unaware of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Exactly. Just because you're in Colombia and it didn't happen to you doesn't mean that it's not happening all around you, right? And if it's happening all around you, that's an unsafe environment, which is why a lot of people that are saying, hey, just don't go out on Tinder and just don't go out late at night. That's not enough to avoid these things, right? So in conclusion to all of this, if you Google this, there's just so many articles. Like there's one article that says Colombia could lose popularity with Americans. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention. Colombia is now actually a level 3. So Mexico is a level 2 of traveling, which is level 2. The U.S. government, when they give a level 2, that just means exercise caution while you're traveling. Level 3, right, says Americans should now, according to the U.S. government, Americans should now reconsider travel to Colombia due to crime terrorism. Unlike most states in Mexico that currently fall within the acceptable level 2 categorization, the Department of State has included the whole of Colombia in level 3, which means safety is compromised. All right. So, yeah, there's a lot of safer places to visit than Colombia, Mexico being one of them, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Europe, other parts of Latin America, parts in states. And right now, I'm in Colombia. I've been in Colombia a little bit, but I think I'm gonna wrap up my trip here. I got a couple more vlogs here that I'll post to show about Colombia, in case you're interested to know more about Colombia or travel here. It is you can have a safe time here. You just gotta have so many precautions that like it's just like it becomes stressful. Okay, I have to talk about this because this channel is about past life with the passport, and although we talk about a lot of fun and good things that go on, we also gotta address things like this so we can all have a safe, fun, fulfilling time while traveling the world with a passport. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.